Manx Radio's 1 to 3, tended by Ramsey Garden Centre.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, lovely. So it is Christy, by the way. Faster my hello. Well, thank you for chatting to me again.
Pleasure.
You had great fun with Chris this morning. It was so lovely.
Yeah, we need to do it again. I particularly like the section about moaning.
Yeah, that was very entertaining. I mean, you were talking about everything from potholes to snoring dogs to all sorts. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, the moaning section for me was the highlight. It just feels good to get all that out in the open.
Well, he's known for being a bit of a grumbler himself, to be honest, so I think he probably very much enjoyed that. He did say to me, make sure you get the dog on air, but I'm guessing you're not with the hound anymore, are you?
Muffin has gone downstairs because I believe food is cooking. But we can discuss that if you like.
Well, I mean, we could discuss anything. I suppose what we should probably do is talk about the gig. So let's do that. Let's talk about the night itself. We've been hearing with you, chatting with Chris there. You are coming back to the Isle of Man, Russell Watson, and we are delighted about it. I should say this has been described variously as the part of the From Me to You tour, but also the Magnificent Buildings tour, which I'm very much liking the sound of that.
Yes, and I'm sure you're aware of this as well. I love Isle of Man.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, in essence, this tour really does reflect my quarter century as a recording artist. It's 25 years since the release of the first album, The Voice, which broke records that we never expected to be broken. It became the longest-standing number one record in any chart in history. And we spent 52 weeks at number one, which was incredible. And
that's
I became
insane.
The first. I know. And it kind of, at the time, I mean, it was completely bewildering because I wasn't expecting it. And I know the record company weren't expecting. I mean, they were expecting some relative success, but not to the level that we reached. It was just a marvellous and a very, very exciting period of time. And the 25 years, I mean, in some respects, those 25 years feel like 25,000 years with all the water that's gone under the bridge, with, you know, the career highlights and, of course, illnesses and all the rest of the stuff that's gone by. But when I think back to that first day of recording in London at Air Lyndhurst Studios with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and I walked through the door for the first time with Nick Ingham holding the baton, and it seems like yesterday. It's a weird kind of, it's a weird feeling. It's gone so quick, yet it seems in some respects like such a long time ago.
Yeah, and I mean, you have had so many extraordinary career highlights in this time. But I mean, you touched on the illness, obviously, something you've been very vocal and talking about it, and quite right too. And I'm sure it's helped a lot of people that you have. But there must have been a time when you were going through it, because of course it was twice, wasn't it? You had to go through surgery, and there must have been times when you were thinking, you know, might not sing again, might not be able to do this, might not be able to perform. So I mean, talk about a whole depth of emotions you've gone through over the past years.
Yeah, I mean, there was, to be fair, at various different points, there was times where I was thinking I won't be breathing again, let alone singing. Singing something that, you know, once I started to feel a sense that I was coming out the other end of all the health issues, that was when I started to think about it. But I think with things like that, you know, things that stop you from doing what you need to do, like, you know, your daily things like working and so on, when health scares come along, all you're thinking about is, I think, getting back to fitness so that you can get back to what you do, get back to a normal daily routine. So I sort of very much focused on each stage as it came along, you know, found out I wasn't well, had the surgery, knew that what was going to be coming next was radiotherapy, had that. Then I knew I needed to recover and build my strength back up from that. And then I started to think about singing.
Which I'm sure you really wanted to get back into quickly, not least because of your career, but also it really does heal, doesn't it, music?
Yeah, I mean, getting back on stage for me was wonderful. The thing is as well, you know, when I look back, it's so weird, 25 years gone by, I don't really feel any difference. I mean, I see a slight changes when I look in the mirror, and I've got a few more creaks than I used to have 25 years ago. But overall, vocally and inside my head, things haven't changed that much, and the voice is working very well at the moment. I mean, I'd say it's as good, if not better, than it's ever been. It really does feel very strong and powerful. Now's the time to come and have a listen to it. It's working incredibly well.
And we're going to get treated to it. We're very excited. It's very soon. It's next week, in fact. So we're really looking forward to it. I mean,
it's Wednesday, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, a week's time. Yeah. So we're really looking forward to it. And the thing about it, I mean, of course, it's about the voice, because that's exactly who you are. But it's not just music. You're an entertainer, really. There's a lot more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, that's the 10 years I spent in the working men's clubs that has brought all that around. Treading the boards and coming up against some tough audiences. The one thing that I have now is that people pay to come and see me, so they want to sit and they want to listen, they want to observe what's going on stage. Whereas back in the days of the clubs, I was kind of third on the bill. Sort of top of the bill being bingo, and then second on the bill, the regular conversations that were held about, the latest episode of Coronation Street or EastEnders, and then came me. So it's a different feeling, but that's really where I earned my stripes in the clubs. It's
a way to keep you humble, that as well, isn't it?
Eat and tap, lad. We're going to put you on at 9 o'clock just before bingo. Make sure you're done dead on 25 past, or they'll have you.
That is absolutely priceless. Oh, that's great. Well, do you know, it was interesting because listening to you talking to our Chris, you did impersonations, didn't you, of other artists, where you said when you were recording the chart show, which I absolutely remember that, click on those buttons, and as you said, but you used to impersonate other singers as well. So do you still do a little bit of that now?
I don't do it now. Sometimes I slip into what I call bad habits of sort of without recognising that I'm doing it, of sort of emulating, phrasing and such that other singers do. But I mean, there was I had so much good fun, and so many great memories came out of the clubs. I mean, not all of it was good, but a lot of it was good. I mean, there's this one place I used to do. It's called the Acton Court Hotel, and the comprador, he'd say to me, he says, "How would you want me to introduce you, Russ?" I'll say, "I don't know, just say Russell Watson, man of many voices," something like that, because that was when I was doing the impersonations. And he said, "Right, let me get this right. Russell Watson, a man of many voices." I went, "Yeah." And he went, "All of them unrecognisable. How's that?" I went, "Maybe not the unrecognisable bit."
Oh, God, you just can't beat that kind of humour, can you?
I mean, some of it was, yeah. I mean, there was this one place, and then, like I say, it was the school of hard knocks. Mm-hmm. You had to be prepared for everything, and you never knew what the next person was going to say to you. This one bloke come up to me one night. I'd sung my heart out for 45 minutes. I was in Wigan on the stage and sung my heart out, and the concert secretary came over to me and he went, "Can I ask you a question, Russell?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Do you do anything good?"
Oh, my God.
I went, "Yeah, play football."
Oh, it should be stand-up as well. Absolutely brilliant. But like you said, that was the whole deal, wasn't it, with working men's clubs, that you couldn't just sing a song. It had to involve so much more than that. And it's fascinating hearing you talk about it. With doing all those other voices then, I mean, was it hard to find your own voice?
Once I started singing the classical repertoire, the more the operatic and Neapolitan pieces, that was, I think, where I really started to find a noise that was specifically belonged to me, for want of a better word, and that was really where the impersonations stopped, and I began focusing on what I believed was going to be something that would long-term work for me.
Yeah. So who were some of the people that you would impersonate back in the day?
back in the day, probably Cliff Richard, Elvis, Neil Diamond.
It's a good
Meatloaf.
list. Oh, and then you got to collaborate with Meatloaf as well.
I did. Many years later, it's funny because one place I did a summer season in Blackpool, and they used to they put on their ad board outside the place that I was singing. They put Russell Watson, everything from meatloaf to Pavarotti. I thought this sounds more like a menu at a restaurant.
With a side of good gravy.
I'll have a 16-ounce meatloaf, and I'll have one of them Pavarottis for dessert.
But can I have it battered?
Right.
Oh my goodness! I mean, talking of collaborations though, the list is incredible. I mean, Paul McCartney, come on! And I loved hearing the duet with Shaun Ryder earlier, the collaboration with Shaun Ryder on Chris's show as well. Which ones kind of really stand out for you? Is that hard to say?
Shaun was the standout, just because it was so, that world that Shaun lived in was so alien to me, and yet it was exciting. It was invigorating. It was crazy. We were the polar opposites, both vocally, and I think the way we lived our lives. But I think that made for a really good connection between the two of us, not just vocally, but we got on well. I have a huge amount of respect for Shaun. It's just a great guy, and we had a lot of fun and a lot of laughs. A lot of it's not obviously, presentable before the watershed. But yeah, I mean, it was a crazy time. But we were polar opposites, but it was great fun. Cliff Richard, who was, I sang with him quite a few times early in my career, and who was for my mum, who was a massive Cliff Richard fan, that remains the highlight of my career. I'd speak to my mum and I'm singing. As soon as I told her I was singing with Cliff, that was it. She was all over it. Russell's singing with Cliff Richard. I can't believe it, coming to all the shows, and she just absolutely lapped it up. And yet I'd ring her up and go, "Where are you today, love?" "I'm at the Vatican, Mum. I'm doing a private concert for Pope John Paul II. "Oh, very nice, love. When are you singing with Cliff again?"
Oh, I love it.
I couldn't, I really, it was amazing. The show that he put on, I mean, back in sort of 99, 2000 as well. I mean, we were singing, we did 4 concerts, or should I say he did, I was his guest. He did 4 concerts at Hyde Park, 25,000 people each night. So in 4 nights, I sang to 100,000 people. I mean, that initially was a massive boost for, my record sales and my career.
That must have been terrifying, though.
No, not at all. I've never been terrified of walking in front of an audience, of singing. I remember the first time I sang at Old Trafford was Manchester United. It was the year that they won the treble, and the place. It was the last game of the season against Tottenham. The place was packed. It was, I think, the stadium capacity then was about 60,000. And I was stood at the side of the pitch just before I went on to sing Nessun Dorma. The place was, as I say, buzzing and absolutely packed. And my dad was shaking, and a little bead of sweat down the side of his temple. And he looked at me and he went, "You're not nervous?" And I went, "No." I said, "I can't wait to get out there." He says, "I'm petrified and I'm not even singing."
Did you get him on stage with you, just at the side, so we could experience it?
No, I sang in the middle of the pitch.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. And the roar, when I hit the high note of Nessun Dorma, this massive roar, thunderous roar and applause after I finished the performance. It was such a magical moment. I mean, it was a guy called, I think it was David Meek, who wrote in the Manchester Evening News. And I know it was the first thing that had ever been written about me in the press, so I remember it so well. And he wrote, the young man strode into the centre of the pitch and began to sing. You know when you've witnessed something special, when even the cynical hacks in the press box join in the standing ovation. I swear, even the pigeons on the roof of the stand flapped their wings when he hit that top note. And I still to this day, I look back and think that's the most incredible thing that's ever been written about me.
That is absolutely glorious, isn't it? I mean, that's sort of, okay, yeah. I'm done now, that's it. But I suppose that's part of it, though. Do you not then, because, you know, when you're doing things like this and achieving things like this quite early on in your career, especially when you think about The Voice, the album itself, doing what it did, which for a debut is just extraordinary, the pressure must have been quite immense.
There wasn't so much a pressure on the first album, because I didn't really, if I'm being honest, I'd just come out of clubland. You know, I'd been singing with Fred on a Hammond organ and Bill on a 4-piece Pearl drum kit. There was no pressure. The pressure really came on the second album, where I had to do it all again. Because on the first album we released it and everyone was expecting it to do okay and hoping for, you know, decent sales. You know, 100,000 would have been a phenomenal success. Mm-hmm. The thing sold 1 million in the UK alone and was number one all over the world. And all of a sudden it's like, well, now we've got to go again. And that's when you start to feel the pressure.
Yeah, gosh. And, you know, and the other things that you've done, which I think are incredible. I love the fact that you're the voice behind the Star Trek series Enterprise soundtrack. I mean, that is just, that's wonderful. I think a lot of people might not know that.
That was a very bizarre day, because it came about in such a way that it was so matter of fact. It was... Diane Warren, who's one of the most prolific songwriters in the world. I mean, Everyone from Meatloaf to Celine Dion, you know, she's wrote hits she's one of the biggest hit makers of the 90s, without question. Mm-hmm. And she'd done some stuff on my album. She'd written a couple of, for the first album, she'd written a couple of songs. And this particular day, I get a call from LA. I was at home in Worsley. And it's Diane. Hey, Russell, how are you doing? You okay? She's a very quick talker. I went, yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you? Yeah, great. Listen, I got this thing going on, right? The producer just been in. Do you know Stu had Star Trek over there? I was like, yeah, of course we do, Captain. That's right, Captain Kirk. Yeah. Okay, so they're doing a new series. It's going to be called Enterprise. Yeah? Okay. I wrote this song. Do you want to sing it? So I went, what? Like, it'll be the theme tune for Star Trek. She went, yeah, that's right. I went, yeah, I think so, yeah, absolutely. And I put the phone down from her. I was like, I've just been offered the theme tune from Star Trek, which I watched, you know, religiously as a kid. And here I am all these years later singing the first ever Star Trek theme with a voice on it. And it was just, you can't, it's difficult, even now when I think about it retrospectively, it's still a bit like, okay. When sometimes flicking through the channels and you know, I'll flick through a channel and all of a sudden Star Trek will be on, it's like, I sang the theme tune to that. It's pretty cool, really.
It's pretty cool. It's incredible. I love it. I think it's one of my favourite facts about you. But all of these things that you're talking about, and it obviously is, understandably will be quite reflective with it being 25 years, but it just shows how you've crossed over so many genres over that time. And, I guess that sort of is one of those things that will help with the audience as well, to kind of boost the audience. But I'm intrigued to know as well, because you're listening to your music choices, which span so many different genres when you were picking music on the morning show with Chris. I know that obviously you play instruments as well, and it did make me think, if you had a chance to really focus on an entirely different genre, because you were picking quite punky things, quite kind of like rocky things, and quite soulful things as well. Is there anything else? If you were in a band, is there any other genre that you'd like to really tackle?
I've tackled a lot of the genres over the years. Mm-hmm. I mean, we released an album that was totally and utterly swing repertoire, and then a soul album as well. So there's been quite a lot of stuff. Back in the day, I used to do impersonations of Meatloaf and ended up singing with him, doing a show with him in New York eventually, which was, again, amazing. So genre-wise, I've covered most of the stuff that I feel relatively comfortable with. But my real genuine love is the classical stuff. That's where I'll always harken back to. That's where I'll always probably naturally gravitate to. There's new repertoire that we've been working on. We've released an EP of the new stuff, but I've been working with a lady called Helen Jane Long, who is a fabulous writer and a ridiculously good pianist as well. In fact, she's the world's number one streaming piano player, female piano player. And she's worked on a whole host of different stuff. I mean, she wrote the theme tune for the Mercedes-Benz F1 team. She's done TV commercials galore, and she's done, Hollywood movie theme tunes as well. So stuff that she's written is very different stylistically to what I've done before, but it's really evocative material. It's material that kind of taps into the emotions, I think, more than some of the stuff that I've done previously. It's going to be it's going to be an exciting release when we finally get that one out on the shelves.
Absolutely. We'll look out for that. I'm very much looking forward to it. So, I mean, you mentioned piano players. You're not alone when you come to the Gaiety for the gig next week. You have a pianist with you, don't you?
I have Mr. Mike Moran with me, and I have, we've got the school choir. Now, I did have trouble, I'm not sure why, pronouncing this when we were doing the ad for it. It's the Ballacottia School Choir.
Yeah, just try saying school again.
School choir.
Yeah. No, you got Ballacottia bang on. That's exactly how you say it.
But yeah, I didn't initially. Somebody sent me a note saying it's pronounced Gala as in gala, not Ball as in ball. Because I pronounced it gala, but I thought maybe they're sort of Americanizing it. So
yeah.
Anyway, so I sent it back, and then I got, no, it's not that. So I did it again, and I put, here we have how did I say it? The Ballacottia School Choir. And says, no, it's not as in French. And anyway, on the third attempt, I got it right.
Well done. You're just trying to make us sound fancier than we are, that's all. That's not a bad thing.
The Ballacottia School Choir.
The Ballacottia School Choir. I like that a lot. Well, listen, I've got Katie Lawrence on with me this week, who is leading the choir, and she'll love that. I think she'll probably run with that from now on and completely rename the choir. So can you give us any sort of ideas of what you'll be doing with the choir?
Well, I think the choir are going to guest for me, so I'll be giving them a big build-up, obviously, because it'd be lovely to sing with them. I mean, I've heard them sing. I just think it'd be lovely to sing with them as well. So that's something that we're trying to, make happen.
Can it be Meatloaf?
I'm not sure that Bat Out of Hell would fit well with
it would be incredible. Meatloaf and the Ballacottia School Choir. I think it has to be done. Well, a little heads up for you. I do not know if they do this with the choir. They do sort of pop stuff as well. Leader Katie Lawrence's favourite song in the whole wide world, which she texts us about on an almost daily basis, is Africa by Toto. So if you happen to mention that at any point to her, you will make her life. I'm just letting you know. So that's a good one. So okay, so we're obviously in for an absolute treat on Wednesday. It's going to be an excellent night. And one of the other things I picked on when you were talking to Chris is you used the phrase that music catalyses memories, and I'm sure at this gig you're going to be creating memories for other people with your music. I mean, it must bring you an awful lot of joy knowing that you're able to affect people in the same way that music has affected you over the years.
Without question. I mean, it's kind of, that's the drug for me, is getting on stage, and as soon as that light hits my face, everything comes to life. And that sense of giving others pleasure whilst you're singing on stage it's a really wonderful feeling. And more so, when you get people, coming over to you at the end of the evening and saying, you know, I've been through this and this and this, and tonight has really given me a big lift. And that's what life's all about. You know, it's not about self-centeredness. It's about, you know, giving people respect. And I think, for me personally, being a good Christian and where you can help out, where you can help others, give them a helping hand. And I think music has the ability to lift people's spirits and as I say, you know, more than anything, catalyse these memories, be they difficult memories or be they wonderful memories. Music has the ability to do that like nothing else.
It absolutely does. Russell, I don't say this lightly, you really are an inspiration. Thank you so much for everything you do, but also taking the time to talk to little old us here on the Isle of Man, and we can't wait to have you here. So your tickets still available, some tickets still available. I would get them now if you can, villagaiety.com, or call 600 555 to get them. Russell, all the very best, and we look forward to seeing you here next week.
It's a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you too. Thank you very much.
Manx Radio's 1 to 3, tended by Ramsey Garden Centre. Open 7 days a week.